Hi, I'm Scoot, and welcome to Scoot on the Air YouTube. If you have not subscribed, I hope you will. We're supposed to give you an update every time, and an alert every time we do something live. And subscribing is free. We're just trying to build this channel because it's a great extension of my talk show on WWL. So become a subscriber. Just subscribe. It's real simple, and it's free. And hopefully, we'll keep you up to date on everything that we do. Again, more coming as time goes on. Look, I wanted to have fun with the show on YouTube tonight. It was on this day, April the 26th, 1977. And this will explain the glitter coat that I'm wearing. On this day in 1977, Studio 54 opened up in New York City on West 54th Street. What a legendary disco that was. I went there once. I was there one time. And it was Studio 54. It was great to be dancing there. It was great to say that I went to Studio 54 and actually danced. But this is the day that Studio 54 opened up. And most of you know the story, even if you're not a baby boomer or you were not part of that disco era. There's a lot to be embarrassed about from the disco era, but I mean, it was a lot of fun. But I'm going to reveal, for those of you who are millennials, Xers, or Zoomers, I'm going to reveal to you a few things about the baby boomer generation that you need to keep in mind. Don't let boomers tell you that you're like this horrible, bad young generation, because I'm going to give you some information that you can use in your discussions with boomers. Anyway, Cher was there on opening night. Let's see, who else was there? Cher was there. Elton John, Michael Jackson, Brooke Shields, Liza Minnelli, and guess who else? And he was a regular visitor to Studio 54. Donald Trump. Yeah, he was a regular visitor there. Andy Warhol was another celebrity who was always there. Studio 54 was most known for having a very exclusive crowd. And they attracted a lot of celebrities. And you couldn't just get in. No, you couldn't just get in. You had to stand in line. And people were selected based on what they looked like. This was a big deal back in the 70s. And it really kind of just brought to mind, just talking about this on my radio show today on WWL, it really brought to mind just the disco era in general. And look, the music was fun. It was a fun era. We had fun. But the clothes were totally embarrassing. Polyester, jersey material stuff. It was junk. I mean, it was horrible. It really was. Bell-bottom pants and hip-hugger pants and jersey shirts, print jersey shirts that had like a scene from the Arizona desert at sunset on it. I mean, we wore crazy stuff. Puka shells. I seem to remember puka shells from that era as well. But look, here's what you need to know. Here in New Orleans, disco was huge. It was huge everywhere. But we baby boomers, we would go out and dance. And there were times when we didn't come out of a club until the sun was coming up. We didn't realize how much fun we were having in there, but by the time we walked out, the sun was coming up. So baby boomers stayed out all damn night. And then at that point, you're looking for some soakage. You're looking for some food. Because you've been drinking. Look, a lot of people stayed up really late. I didn't do this at that time, but a lot of people were into Coke, and that was just a big part of Studio 54. If you've never seen the movie 54 with Mike Myers playing the part of Stephen Rubell, one of the owners and founders of Studio 54, watch the movie 54. It is outrageous. Ryan Phillippe's in it, and a few other people. Their names escape me right now, but cocaine and cash was just a huge part of Studio 54. And in the end, Stephen Rubell got in trouble because he's skimming money. I mean, the cash was just, it was just amazing to see how much cash flowed into that place. And you know, cash corrupts people. And we see that happen with politics all the time. So check out the movie 54. Another movie that was pretty good about disco was the movie The Last Days of Disco. Chloe Sevigny was one of the stars in that movie, and it was like the waning days of disco. And while I guess in a way it's a little sad, it was just a reminder of what disco had been. And then I guess in some ways, Night at the Roxbury was a movie that it kind of touched on the ambiance of disco, but I think that was more set in the 80s. Now, look, disco lasted until the early 80s. Well, late 70s, maybe into 80, maybe 81, but around 80, by 83, music had changed. And songs like Don't You Want Me, Baby, Human League, the British invasion of 80s music, the synth pop sound from the UK, that was dominating American music on the radio and in clubs everywhere. And here in New Orleans, a guy named Charlie, who's one of the owners of this club, 4141 was the name of a really popular club. And the address was 4141 St. Charles Avenue. And it was one of the more popular clubs. And he called in my show today, and he confirmed the rumor, because I've been talking about this, but I didn't know whether it was true or if it was just a myth. But this is what it was like back in the disco era in the 70s and very beginning of the 80s. 4141 was a really nice upscale disco. People were well dressed. I mean, you didn't have to wear a coat and tie or anything like that, but people were well dressed. They had a dress code: no jeans. Well, in the late 70s, Led Zeppelin pulled up in a limousine. They were staying in New Orleans while they were on tour. They used New Orleans as a home base, so they spent a lot of time here. Led Zeppelin pulls up to Studio 54. They're wearing blue jeans. They don't let them in. And Charlie told me today, and I didn't know this, they also denied entrance to Joe Cocker, who was also wearing blue jeans. So, there was a strict dress code back then. That has changed today. You could almost go everywhere in jeans today. But back then there was a strict dress code. But look, anybody that lived through the disco era is lucky to be alive, and I'm among them. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, if Quaaludes were really big. Never did Quaaludes, but I know a lot of people were on Ludes during that era. I don't even know what they do to you, but a lot of people were on Ludes, and it was a really crazy time. And when I hear baby boomers so judgmental of young generations, I kind of want to smack the baby boomer generation in the forehead and go, "Hey, man, don't you remember? Don't you remember how bad we were, how radical we were, how we partied?" Now, it was different back then, because you'd go to discos, and there was a place in the New Orleans area called Fat City, and it was out in the suburbs, and it took business away from the French Quarter, especially for all the local people. People didn't go to the French Quarter as much. They went to Fat City. And man, we walked from club to club to club. And there was just one after. I mean, it was just, the place was populated with just a number of discos. And we'd go party. And we had a good time. But it was crazy. It was crazy. And we drank a lot. And back then, we drove. And I'm so fortunate that nothing ever happened. I was never in an accident, never hurt anybody, never hurt myself, never crashed a car. But I was lucky, because I can tell you, and I'm being honest with you, that I drove many times when I was drunk. And I don't know how I made it home, but I did. And so when I've had friends who've gotten DWIs, I've never been overly critical of them. I mean, of course, I encourage them never to let that happen again. But the friends that I have who have been stopped drinking and driving, they've learned their lesson the first time. But it could have been me. It could have been me. And I did what they did. They got caught. I didn't get caught. So it's hard for me to go, how could you possibly do that? Because I did it. I'm not proud of that, but I did it. Another thing about the disco era that is such a reflection of change over time is during the disco era. I'll tell you, the clubs in New Orleans that had some of the best disco music were the gay clubs. Two gay clubs in the French Quarter, Pete's, which is now Oz, and the Parade, the club on top of the Bourbon Pub. Both of these are at the corner of Bourbon and St. Anne. And, my wife at the time and I, and with our married friends, we would go dance at these gay bars, these gay clubs. They had the greatest music, and you didn't hear it everywhere. They had the music first, and they would play stuff, and then you'd hear it later. You might hear it on the radio, but they had it first. And we thought nothing of going down there and dancing to disco music at the gay clubs. What changed? Why did baby boomers change? My generation, again, this is why I'm a hostile witness to the baby boomer generation. Why did boomers change? Why, as a generation, did boomers become so collectively critical of the LGBTQ community when we were the ones who, first of all, in the 60s, we were all about not judging people and accepting people regardless of their sexual orientation. And then in the 70s, we're going to gay clubs, not thinking anything of it. Going to a gay club doesn't mean you're gay. Any more than going to the Virgin Islands means you're a virgin. I mean, it's ridiculous. So to me, that's an embarrassing change for my generation. There was something fun about those clubs, and there's something still fun about those clubs today because I still go. Now, I haven't done anything, since the pandemic hit like that, but they're still gay clubs are still active in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and they're fun places. Gay clubs in other cities. I mean, I've been to gay clubs in Miami and Philadelphia and Denver and Seattle and Portland and really all over. They're fun clubs. But yet my generation became very judgmental of gays, and that's an embarrassment to me. Now, I know many boomers feel the way I do. I mean, what's the problem? But the whole idea of just, hey, who cares? Let's just go dance. And the gay clubs had great music. But I think it's interesting that as time went on, that changed. Oh my God, we can't go to a gay club. You go to a gay club? You go to a gay? Are you gay? No, I'm not gay. But nobody asked that question back in the 70s when we were going to discos to disco dance at gay clubs. It's embarrassing that people ask the question today. Anyway, I hope this has brought back a few memories of if you've spent time in the disco era. I hope this brought back a few memories for you, the places you used to go dance wherever you are, the music you used to dance to. In fact, on my radio show today on WWL in the 3:00 hour, all the music we featured was music that was on the regular playlist at Studio 54. And this is the day in 1977 that famous discotheque opened up for the very first time. I'm Scoot. Thank you for joining me here on Scoot on the Air YouTube. And you can also join me on Scoot on the Air Instagram and Scoot on the Air Facebook. And don't forget to join me on my radio show. It's WWL in New Orleans, 870 AM, 105.3 FM in New Orleans and the Gulf South. Or you can download the app Odyssey, Audacy. Download the app Odyssey and type in WWL. I'm on 1 to 4, Monday through Friday, Central Time in the afternoon.